What's good, party people? This is Accord in the Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend. She is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner. She is Brittany Cowan. Brittany, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It was actually kind of weird because to post the thing. Usually, I post at midnight in Pacific Standard Time because I've had a litany of guests like cancel the day of or what have you, washing their
Right.
hair. So I post about an appearance the day of, right? And then also we're doing it kind of early. So I woke up and I looked at my wife and I was like, "What time is it?" Thinking I'd miss the podcast, and she's like 8:30. I was like, yes, because it's one where you're at. It's about is it noon?
It's noon. It's noon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
noon where you're at. It's 10 a.m. where I'm at. So yeah, but I'm good. But what about you?
I'm doing well, pretty well. I've been extremely busy, but I can't complain. Life is good. Yeah.
Busy is good, especially 2020 into 2021 was weird for all of
Yeah.
us. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of look at you kind of weird and a bit
Yeah.
suspect if you didn't have a weird 2020 or 2021. But busy is good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a massage therapist by trade, so yeah, it was COVID's had a pretty big impact on me as far as that goes. So
So, I mean, when did you know things were like not normal in your neck of the woods? Like, was it something that came down like the news kind of cycle, or like it was there a
um
mandate?
it was a mandate back in 2020. Was
Hmm.
that March? When did
March,
it all just happen? March 2020.
March,
It
yeah.
was like I just moved to Texas maybe 7 months before, and I had just started getting clientele in from the gym that I was training at the time. So
Hmm.
I'd had people that like paid me in advance, and then it was just I couldn't do anything. And at that point, we didn't know anything about it.
Hmm.
So I was genuinely concerned, like, okay, what is this? What's going on? So yeah.
Yeah, and especially in your field, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost kind of future proof. Like, I mean, if you look at my Instagram timeline, I'm always, if I'm not posting about podcasts, it's people usually getting fucked up, like people landing on
Yeah.
their necks and everything,
Yeah. I've
right?
seen that.
Yes. So, I mean, that you're in demand for those people,
Yeah.
um,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, absolutely. And then the fact that you can't,
Yeah.
like that. What I mean, just kind of you had just moved. I mean, whereabouts did you move from to Texas?
I moved from Florida, Tallahassee, Florida. It's right in the
Okay,
Panhandle. Hmm.
and then
And
you're in a new place, and you're starting
yep,
to get stable, and
so
then.
many changes. It was so when I moved from Florida, I actually left a pretty toxic relationship that was
Mhm.
it was long term. So it was a lot of changes at once. It was pretty tough. And when I had gotten back into training, I had just gotten to a point where I felt like I could get back out into the world,
Mhm.
and then bam, COVID.
Oof.
Yeah.
No,
So
I mean, without the relationship aspect of it, I had been out of jujitsu for 4 years. So what basically happened with me is like I trained first in Bakersfield, which is like Central California, under a husband and wife. They're both John Jock Machado black belts, right?
nice.
Yeah. So and it was all gi and whatever. And I paid 6 months. I think I put like some of my tax return and just put it down on jujitsu because I figured I wanted to go the Rogan route where, no, I don't have a broadcasting degree per se. I do have a bit of a background, but like, to be able to convey, to be a good
Right.
speaker and actually know the holds and be able to, convey it to an audience that might not know the technical aspect of it, and kind of bridge the gap. Right. So I trained 6 months there and then didn't train for another 2 years because I lost my job. We moved back here to LA where I grew up. Um, and then basically I trained at Fight Academy with like Savant Young and Herb
Nice.
Dean and what have you. And then I've been out 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a long time.
I know. And that's the crazy thing. I was just starting, like the 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu family have always been awesome to me. Um, and I was about to start back at 10th Planet Pasadena with Compella and Eric Ramey. And that was March 7th.
Oh, wow. So
2020. Yeah.
how is it there post COVID? You're in
It,
California, right?
yeah. I mean, I'm in LA. I'm on the
Yeah,
ass
you
end
live
of the
there.
Hollywood side, So, it's weird. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the best that I can say. It's weird because of course there's like there's mandates, all right? But I theoretically you can, like, I went to Bellator at the Forum where when AJ McKee won the title, all you had to do is like a negative test within 72 hours. Josh Barnett just had his Bloodsport Pro Wrestling MMA hybrid. That was last Friday night, and that was okay. And I went to another show, the following night. But you just have to show either your Vax card or your a negative test within 72 hours.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well,
It's a little
before you
more
could even,
lax here.
well, yeah, but see, it also goes, and this is kind of like my wife and I were talking about it the other day. Is you know, it's weird because like it first on the national level, then the state level, then the county level, and then the city level, and like I don't live in LA City per se. I live in a different city, but it's within LA County. So always they're kind of button heads with whatever the hell goes down.
Yeah, that's wild.
But you said where you're at in Texas is lax, which do
um,
tell.
Maybe because I don't get out much.
Okay, that's fair.
But I mean the mask mandate, it's not mandatory, it's optional in the
Okay,
grocery stores and wherever you go. I haven't done a huge event except for like jujitsu tournaments.
right.
And depends on the venue. They're not like super strict about wearing mask, but you don't have to like provide a vaccination card or a negative test for those.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Everybody's kind of elected leaders kind of, I don't want to say they pick and choose, but what is enforced, and that's the catch-22 about, like, you can say a particular mandate, but the enforcement, right? Like,
Right.
you know, like at the Forum, they say that they need certain whatever, but then you have event staff that are getting paid maybe minimum wage, and only
Yeah.
work that event and might not work for another month. So
Yeah.
you're asking those same people to frisk you and make sure you don't have a firearm, but also frisk you. I mean, like, but also
You're
to show
right.
up with a vaccine card. And they've got what I think the attendance that night was like 16, 17,000. So you're going to
Oh
do
my
that?
gosh.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everything is like, and not to speak because it's everybody's one side or the other. There aren't any neutral people, I don't think,
Yeah.
uh, but it's just people are gonna do what they want. And I very early on, because I would get upset. I got into like, oh my god, you're not masked. Oh my god, blah blah blah. But like, I ended up getting COVID, and because of my family's history, I've got like my dad and my mom's brother, so two different sides, heart attack. Then my mom died of a brain aneurysm, and that's
Oh my
very
God.
very close to them talking about a potential side effect for the vaccine
Right.
is clotting. Well, already as a 36-year-old male, I'm like, I was already contemplating because my mom died at 53 of the brain aneurysm. My dad died a week and change shy of his 63rd birthday. So I'm already looking like I've lived halfway of my life, even before
Right.
COVID. So,
Right.
like, the fact that I could, clot and then whatever, and they just like, oh, well, I guess it didn't work. And that's kind of it. Like, there are people that have gotten the vaccine and been fine. There have been people that have not gotten the vaccine
Right.
and been horrible. People catching COVID. There are people that are in shape that have survived, but then people in
Mhm.
shape that have died. There are people, out of shape that have survived, people out of shape that have died. So I
It's so
don't.
weird
It is weird.
how different COVID impacts people. Like it's weird that it can really look like almost anything too, you know?
Mm,
It's
No,
weird.
yeah, I mean, when I got it 4 days after, my 14-year-old catches it and is fine. This
Yeah.
damn thing took me out. Like I counted, like the times that I was like out of breath, and I was just like, if I close my eyes and I don't wake up, I'm totally cool. Like I just,
Yeah.
like I'm not spiritual. I'm spiritual, but not faithful, right?
Right, right.
So I was just like, I just wanted mercy that if you know, my wife and kids, found my body, that it wouldn't be like, blood and
Oh,
pus dripping out. Because there was like 12 times, and numerologists will have a field day with that. Like I was like, it's okay. I'm out. You know,
yeah. That's scary. Yeah.
it's scary,
It's
but
definitely a life altering, right?
100%. I mean, and then like the first thing I do right after, right, because my wife is still kind of iffy. Like, well, our sons were in one room, my wife is in the living room, I was in our bedroom, and the first thing I do, because I can't get into my, around my wife or kids, if I haven't been tested, didn't have a negative test.
Mhm.
So I was just like, okay, I'm theoretically free. This is week 3 of a 2-week kind of situation, 2 weeks of hell. What
Uh,
I do? I fucking do a podcast from my phone from the room.
well, good for you.
Something. Oh, man, that was in between, like the pain in my chest, can't breathe, and whatever, and struggling through like an hour
Yeah.
podcast, but I did it, and it made my lungs stronger, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
it did.
But speaking of strong lungs, I mean, you're a jujitsu practitioner, like,
Mhm.
so how do you come into jujitsu? Especially, I mean, did it start in Florida? What was the deal?
Oh, okay. So yes, it started in Florida. It's kind of a funny story. I started dating my ex, and he owned a jiu-jitsu gym out of Tallahassee. And funny is, so we started dating, and he was just a purple belt. He was like a brand new, maybe one stripe purple belt running his own gym.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we dated for about a month, and he's like, you should come try a class. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Why not? Like then I was just working, and I would work, come home, drink wine, eat. Like I wasn't doing anything. So I tried it, and I remember my first class, I was just like so embarrassed. I'm like shrimping down the mats. I'm like, what is this? Like, are you guys watching me? Like, it was so embarrassing. But I got hooked. I ended up
Not heel hook.
no. They actually didn't even train them there, so I'm good. I'm
10 points.
good. But yeah, so that was all she wrote. I started training then. Let's see. I trained, I ended up, so the story, I ended up quitting my job. And so when I met him and I discovered jujitsu and I saw the life that he was living, like
Hmm.
he was so happy with like bare minimum. Like he lived in this little, it was a little warehouse gym behind like a mini strip mall. So it was like a little hole in the wall with like bullet holes in the doors, like it really was legit hole in the wall. But man, I really took that place for granted. But yeah, I remember going to his gym one day, and he was sitting on the mats, and he was on his like muscle roller barefoot
Hmm.
and was like smoking a bowl. And I was just like, this is what you do? And he's
Hmm.
like, yeah, this is what I do. And so I just started training jujitsu more. I ended up quitting my job, moved into the warehouse with him, and started training a lot. I went to school for massage therapy, and I did that. I was in school for that for a year, still training. Um, and then I got my blue belt in 2016. And yeah, So that's pretty much how I got into jiu-jitsu. I could go on and on about
No,
like
that's what I mean. That's what the podcast is for you to go on and on. But it's kind of. I mean, talk about a perfect fucking life. Like
yeah, it
living
was
at a.
amazing.
I think there's like a I don't know, like almost like a Bruce Springsteen or a John Mellencamp song that starts out that fucking way, like sitting in a
Yeah.
bowl, fucking sitting on the floor, like or like a romantic love, song or whatever, and it
Yeah.
like the script, it's like cheap bottles of wine and
Right.
yeah, for the first time and shit like that. That's dope. That's so
Yeah.
fucking
The first like year or so was pretty good, and then it was like
not
it
good.
started. Yeah, as far as like our relationship, which really
Yeah.
boiled down to our relationship with ourselves, but it made me realize that I wasn't living a life of passion. Like I wasn't. He's like, "What are you passionate about?" I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh." Fuck, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And like other than family, I was like, I really don't know. And so
Mm-hmm.
jujitsu is my passion, my life. I love massage too, but that's kind of like the back burner. Like jujitsu is everything. Jujitsu keeps me going. It really has been the catalyst for change in all aspects of my life at different times of my life also, so but yeah, so I
That
lived in the gym. I lived there in this little warehouse. We had a little apartment or a room in the back, and it was just like sheetrock, and we had like a little plug-in AC unit, and it's so funny because the water would fill up in the little bin, and we would have to go and like dump it out so we could like keep the air going. We had like a little stove burner, like a little camping burner, like where we cooked our breakfast, and like the bathroom, we shared the bathroom with everybody that came to the gym. But so I was like really about it, jujitsu. That's all I did. We just trained.
that's not too different than like if you were in the favelas, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, like of Brazil,
It's
like
pretty
that.
much like, I mean, pretty similar. Minus it's not as beautiful, where, like not as close to, I mean, it's not Brazil, it's just Florida, but
Hey, and then don't knock it because there was a lot of my friends that were like, once all the chips were down and like the work and the relationship stopped, and they're like,
yeah.
Florida or Texas. Oh, they went
Yeah.
they went tax free like a motherfucker, and
Yeah.
so I mean, to some people, Florida and all that jazz is the utopia.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You wrote me home. Montreal goes, yo, fire, and just hands up. Shout out to Romeo. Yes, and he's got a Dodgers jersey on. Shout out to the Dodgers or whatever team that you subscribe to. I kind of I remember when the Dodgers lost the World Series, not I think it was like 3 years ago, 2018. And me and my wife, we went to a Phil Collins show at the Forum in Inglewood. And and he's hobbling out. And this is the great Phil Collins, Genesis, his solo career, the In the Air Tonight. And he comes out and he fucked up his foot, his back is jacked, and he comes out at a cane. And everybody's like, oh my God. And then he goes, obviously you could see I'm not in the best of shape, but
Mhm.
you had choices of where you could be tonight. And he's like, the Dodgers lost, and everybody was like, "Woo!" It's like, not that I give a shit because I'm British and I live in Miami, but if it's okay with you, let's have some fun. And they launched into the first song, and it was like 2 hours of absolute bliss. So yeah,
Yeah.
and so shout out to whatever you do. Now, in terms of jujitsu, did you start gi or did you do no gi? Did you
I
have people
started. Go ahead.
like throwing chops at you, going like,
Yes, yeah. My mom still does that. When she knows I'm competing, she's like, Brittany, you better get her. I'm like, really? Like, really? Don't you watch my matches and see that's well, okay. Sometimes people do that though. They're like, I've had girls like square up with me, and I'm like, dude, like what are you doing? But anyways, primarily, okay, so I started in the gi.
uh-huh.
I preferred the gi, And I think I realize now it's because I didn't really learn like a solid no-gi game.
Yes.
Because now I don't ever want to put another gi on. But yeah, so I started in the gi. I would train both. Just the typical like Monday, Wednesday, Friday gi, Tuesday, Thursday no gi. And now I'm strictly no gi. It's been about 6-7 months. Over the past year, I've really been focusing more on no gi though. But I've been with 10th Planet San Antonio for about 6 months. And
Oh,
man, best decision I ever made.
yeah.
Best decision I ever made. I'm like, I don't want to dwell on the past, but I kind of get upset when I think about all this time I wasted. I'm like, what if I found them 5 years ago? But, you know, I will probably
Yeah,
wouldn't appreciate it as much now, right?
1,000%. And that was the same thing, right? Like, and when I was training at that first gym in Bakersfield, I look at
Yeah.
there was this guy who was just like, he would, in a room full of gis, he has Nogi and like Nuwaza, rash guard and whatever. And I was like, that fucking guy. And then he would smoke a bowl after training. And I was just like, oh, you miscreants. Ooh, you whatever. And then I get to like Pasadena and like that's what everybody does. And I was like, oh, it's just like now. Like I invested so much into combat sports when people are like, oh, did you see that Marvel movie? And I was like, I don't even know because it's just I don't know, man. I don't know. If it doesn't happen in a ring, cage, or mats, I fucking
Right.
don't know. You know, that's the thing. You know, it's just like it's the most adaptable to real life. Unless you're fighting somebody with an
Yeah.
overcoat, and no disrespect to traditional Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, right? I mean, I've
Right.
got a Maeda and Elio Gracie figure like that's looking right over
Yeah,
me
of
as I say this.
course.
But also like Maeda was a judoka and catch wrestler,
Yep.
right? But nobody fucking wants to do it.
Yeah.
When Josh Barnett got to and Dean Lister at Metamoris, everybody's like, oh, Josh Barnett's wrestling in shoes. Ha ha ha, that goof, right?
Yeah.
And then he fucking,
Yeah.
taps out Dean Lister for the first time in 6 years, and people are like, oh, well, that was a disadvantage. He was wearing fucking short shorts. I mean, wrestling shorts
Yeah.
and shoes, and like that. Now it's a disadvantage. All right, bro. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Grappling. I don't care if you call it catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, judo, sambo, what have you. It's grappling. But this,
Yeah.
kind of like deal where, oh, you're not a traditionalist if you don't wear a gi when you grapple. I'm like, okay, tell that to
Good.
the, yeah, exactly, and tell that to like Habib and the Bear. Like they weren't
Yeah.
wearing a gi,
Well,
Fedor with
yeah.
the sambo, the half gi, half shorts. Like you tell those Russians that they're not doing shit right. I dare
Yeah.
you.
Mm. Well, and it's evolved so much, like it's what's traditional, like it's we have what I love about where I'm training at now is that the jujitsu is evolving with the jujitsu community. It's not like stuck in this, oh, this is how it needs to be done. This is like the traditional old school way. It's okay, this is what the best guys are doing. Like we're implementing that and evolving and learning new things. And I think that's beautiful because like that's what I'm doing, like
Mm-hmm.
personally, internally. So it's like it really does like correlate in there. And I love it. I really love that about where I'm at. So
So, seeing as you're at a 10 Planet affiliate, shout out to 10 Planet San Antonio. But
yes.
are you guys doing over the last like 3 or 4 years, combat jiu-jitsu? And for those who don't know, it's,
Yeah.
Nogi jiu-jitsu with open hand slaps, right? So, are you
Yeah.
guys, in terms of the evolution, are you guys doing that yet?
We have not yet,
Okay.
but there has been some discussion of adding a combat jiu-jitsu class. Now
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I would totally be down to do. And I have some training partners that would also be down to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
really do well with getting hit, but why not?
Wow. Yeah, no, I don't do it. But it's funny because after the first EBI, like I mean not EBI, but the combat jiu-jitsu, it's the one that Chad George popped his rib and whatever in the
Okay.
semifinals. But the Monday, that's when I was still like at Fight Academy. The Monday after,
Mm.
everyone was fucking Puerto Rican slap boxing each other. I swear to God, it was.
Hey, I have a homegirl who's like one of my training. She's been a training partner of mine for a couple years, and shout out Amber Vicious. She is, if you catch her name, Vicious. So sometimes we'll be rolling, and I might catch like a slap or something like that. But I've competed with girls that have come at me in that aggressive manner. And I think that because I had that in training, I was able to handle it a lot better. I wasn't like shocked when I got an accident, like slap, I'm just like, I'm used to this.
Which I mean, that because I mean, obviously you fell in love with jujitsu,
Yeah.
some years ago, and you're maybe entertaining the idea of doing a combat jiu-jitsu, match or what have you. And they're
Yeah.
popping up more so than you think, especially, post-pandemic. But with that being said, like, did you ever think about maybe doing MMA since you're kind of, or maybe not?
I have thought about it, and
Okay.
now I'm at a point where I'm like, nah, probably won't do it. I like my brain cells. But then again, with the combat jiu-jitsu, no, I don't have any interest in doing MMA. I have cross-trained like Muay Thai and
Yeah.
have like a basic like rudimentary understanding of striking. But I don't know. Probably not. We'll
No,
see
yeah,
where I can get with jiu-jitsu.
yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, whether it be the Danaher Death Squad or
Right.
there's been so many people, our AJ Agazam, that have made a sole living on just doing jujitsu. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I try to tell everyone, right? Like, I don't care what you do, right? You do it on a mat, whether you're a boxer, whether you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, pro wrestler, MMA fighter, Muay Thai, whatever, you do it on the mats. But there's never been more money in combat sports than right now. And not
Yeah.
only that, but also ways to watch it, which again is another source of revenue. So if you're not making the most of the opportunity, it's on you, really. It's never,
Agreed.
even this podcast. I mean, anybody, if you want to start a podcast, DM me. I will show you, just like, the Keyboard Warriors showed me. But
Yeah.
there's never been more money in combat sports and combat sports related things. So it's just like, you could essentially, not to say money is your deal, but whatever it is, at the very least, like if you can do one tournament and take care of your gym fees for a month, fuck yeah, you do that.
That's where I'm at right now. I'm like, recently have just decided to start competing more. It's been about a year, but like October, I've competed I have something every weekend, actually through mid-November. And I'm just starting to like, people are starting to like recognize me. And I'm not trying to like get big, but my goal is to make a living.
Yeah.
Because I love this. I like doing
Right.
what I do. So I'd like to be able to get good enough so that, I have some kind of income from it. And it's happening. Like I'm getting little sponsors for my rash guards, and which paid for my IBJJF trip 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm excited. I mean, everything else I have coming up is a cash payout. So
see,
yeah,
good.
We're getting there.
Congratulations.
I'm still technically a blue belt, but I've been a blue belt for so long. So
Heck,
I'm just trying to get better at this point. So I'm competing as much as I can, and it's actually working.
Yes,
it's working. The more I compete, the better I'm getting, and it's happening a lot faster. So
yes, and you say like, oh, and I understand it, right? Where you're like, oh, I don't want to get too big, or like,
yeah.
But the thing about it is like, you can, and you don't know who you're affecting, or like for an art, right? Most artists in the traditional sense, they are appreciated for their art long after they're dead, right? Well, being dead doesn't pay bills, and you get a bill when you die anyway, a multitude of them. So with that being said, why can't you?
Right. I'm in a position where I have the support system to be able to do that. I do like the bare minimum just to like pay what I need to, have a little extra money. Like I'm not like I don't need a whole lot of money, you know, like I'm pretty content. And I've had those jobs where like I'm making good money and I wasn't happy. And
Mhm.
jujitsu keeps me grounded. It's just amazing. And it's just a beautiful art. I love it so much. So I am sticking with it. So we'll see what happens.
I like it. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's just like, everybody on their own time, and it might not work out in the like if you those people that have plans, man, that trips me out because I'm
Right.
not. They're like, oh, in 2 years, blah blah blah, be blue, blah blah blah. Heck, 10, 15 years ago, there are people, opening up jujitsu schools as blue belts. Like
Yeah.
that was the thing.
Yeah.
So,
Like my ex was actually a white belt when he opened it was like an MMA gym. And
mhm.
now he's a black belt and he has a successful school in Florida.
See, you just
So
never know. So that's
yeah.
why I'm saying it's just that, like, think as I mean that's the only plan. It's like think as broad and
Yeah.
grand as you can. But
I feel like, I mean, the mind is a powerful thing. And
mhm.
I think that when we really want something and your heart's in it, like you can do it, you know? There's all the naysayers, but you have to ignore them. So one day I'm going to be like a super successful Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt.
No, absolutely, and that's the goal. And
Yeah.
it's a weird one, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm half American black, half Fijian, right? And
Okay.
so on one side, like I'm son of like great grandson of slaves, and then the other might be Fijian royalty, right? But it's this duality. It's this duality of
Yeah.
like you can achieve it, and
Yeah.
this whole trope about like positive vibes only and everything like that. No, sometimes you want to prove a motherfucker wrong. That's
Yeah, it's about
yeah,
being authentic, you know?
yeah,
Like authenticity isn't just being positive, you know? Like
mm-hmm.
sometimes you're fucking mad and you're just like, "Oh, fuck
Yes,
that shit." And that's okay. Like don't
mm-hmm.
dwell in it and let it go, move on, but like just got to keep it real, you know?
Yes, and it almost solidifies what you're doing, right? Because
Right.
I mean, the stuff, pro wrestling, MMA, like that'll never work,
Yeah.
whatever. And then you see MMA guys doing
Yeah.
jujitsu, I mean, doing pro wrestling. Junior Dos Santos just fucking had his first match in AEW pro
Yeah.
wrestling, and so like the world has never been more accessible, you know.
Right.
Uh, like whether it be EBI or Josh Barnett's Bloodsport,
Right.
Karen Tran, who's a Cobrinha black belt, just got her
Yeah.
black belt. She had this fucking crazy match with Zeta Zhang, who used to be in the WWE and is undefeated in
Right.
like in
Yeah.
MMA. And
Yeah.
it's just like you make money, you create opportunities because what you're doing now will open up for you've got the kids class and there's a girl or a guy, I mean not a guy but a boy, right, that
Mhm.
is going to have it a little bit easier
Yeah.
because what you and the rest of your teammates
Oh,
are doing.
yeah. I hope so. Yeah. Learning through experience. Learn from me. But yeah, it's all for right now. It's just I'm just trying to get as much experience as I can with it. So I'm
Mhm.
just competing. Like I'm tomorrow morning. I'm actually going to be in California. I'm flying into Santa Barbara, and
Okay.
I'm competing in Ventura, California for Jeff Glover's Money on the Mat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get to hang out with them for the weekend, and I am excited about that. I'll have a couple purples and blue belts, but I actually have a confirmed match with a seasoned black belt, or not black belt, brown belt. And I can't
Ooh.
remember her name, but I was like, oh, fuck it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It'll be good training because the following week I have a super fight that Friday. So it'll be, I'm going into this as it's just good training for the next match.
I like it. I like it, but
And then just tap quickly because I don't want to get injured.
yeah, 100%, because there's money in the line in the next one. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, well, shout out to Jeff Glover. That, he is amazing. Not just, in terms of
Jiu-jitsu
yeah,
pioneer.
pioneer,
Jiu-jitsu
but
basic.
talk about, expect, I mentioned like the down higher death squad and
Yeah.
whatever, but like Glover, I think him and Kit Dale had when I first started jiu-jitsu, they had a skit on YouTube where they were like flat fighting dildos against the wall. And
Yeah.
that- and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just,
He's a character.
yes, but you need that, but also, like you
Yeah.
said, the true authentic self. If not
Yeah.
for the Kit Dales and the Jeff Glovers and so many others that paved the way, I don't think this. You'd have two fights and you'd be paying to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I love, and you know what I really loved, like his jujitsu is phenomenal, but if you watch his matches, like they're so entertaining. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
just fun to watch, whether
Yeah.
it's like win or lose, like he's putting himself in these bad
Mm-hmm.
positions and like working out of them, like playful with his opponent. And so I'm actually taking a lot from that and like hoping I can go into matches with that, like more laid back, not too laid back,
Yeah.
like, but you get what I'm saying. More playful, having fun with it, remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, who says that? I mean, if you're paying like, $100+ a month
Yeah.
to get training, you should fucking have some sort of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Definitely.
and it's funny because like, you saying like, I've got this, I'm flying out to California, and then, have a super fight the next week. That's not too different than the stories that I heard in pro wrestling. They like GCW,
Yeah.
Game Changer Wrestling. They had a 2-night, stint in LA, right? Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, no ropes. To
Yeah.
me, in terms of evolution of combat sports, it's right there with EBI, right? From
Right.
like ground grappling to striking and everything. And Josh Burnett, the only rules about it is KOs and submission. There ain't no pins and there ain't no ropes, right? So if you throw a motherfucker against the wall, that's a KO. Like it's just, but your story is not too dissimilar to
Yeah.
somebody that is trying to cut their teeth to get to the WWE and the major wrestling organizations. And it's funny because like what pro wrestling was at the turn of the century with, Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt. Yeah. It was essentially what you see in, IBJJF or Fight to Win or Submission on the Shore. And it was just two guys grappling for 2 hours and people would pay to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying. So I think it's amazing. I in terms of like the IBJJF rule set, do you dig it or you don't dig it?
So Nogi Worlds was my first. Okay, so I broke my arm in May and I had to have surgery. Yeah, I went into a super fight with a fractured arm. And I know, my gosh, psycho, right? Somebody get this girl therapy. Anyways, I went in with a fractured arm and I ended up breaking it worse. And so I had to get surgery and it was like I was out for about 4 weeks. And my first tournament back would have been an Austin Open. And I went and my opponent didn't show up. And so instead of refunding me, they gave me a gold medal. And I was like, oh, okay. Victorious via no-show. All right.
Yeah.
So I did Nogi Worlds. Fortunately, there were like 6 girls in my bracket. And I actually won all 3 of my matches. The rule set, it's actually not bad. It was just, I didn't really train for points. And so I'm a horrible points player. And my first match, I was, oh my gosh, that close to losing it because I tried to play like, oh, I'm going to bully her. I'm going to take her down.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to like play, try to get some points. And man, that was too close. I was like, after that, I was like, all right, dude, we're getting in here. We're finishing this quick. Screw the points. But it was actually a really fun tournament. Like the staff were really nice. Yeah, I will probably do another one, but I don't think that I'll ever be like a points player.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
be, don't be,
Nah.
because points don't work out in the street, folks.
No. And
You
so
try
I've
to,
been, yeah, I have more like submission only stuff that I'm doing and
hell yes,
learning through that how to play a submission only game
yeah,
because I'm very much a bottom guard player. Like I like to jump and I like to play closed guard, and I'm
right,
finding that it's not necessarily the best when you can get slammed.
yeah, oh,
That's
100%.
how I rebroke it
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, I got slammed. I didn't even realize it was broken until like I ended up like escaping a toe hold and I passed a guard and my coach was like, "There's a Darce there," and I'm like, I can't do anything. So I ended up finishing the match. I lost that match, but
Oh,
so close.
oh my God! And shout out
Yeah.
to Christopher Schubert because he did
Hey,
the 10
that's
flat.
my homie.
He
That's
did
my
the 10
homie. That's
flat
like my main training partner.
in emoji.
Hey, this
That,
guy drove me to Nogi Worlds and was there for me. So
shout
it's
out to
pretty awesome.
Christopher, man. That's a good brother there. No,
Yeah.
and it's funny because the effect of jiu-jitsu, right, or
Yeah.
MMA or combat sports, right? Like
It's all dangerous.
if you break your shit at work, right,
Yeah.
you're gonna fucking lay and pray on fucking
Yeah.
disability and shit like that.
Yeah.
Ride that some bitch out for like maybe half a year and whatever. No, 4 weeks for Brittany. 4 weeks.
I know. Everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I can do this." Oh man, adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
I'm
Definitely.
just saying.
Because once
Holy
the
shit.
adrenaline wore off, I was like, "Oh fuck! Like I
Fuck.
can't do anything." Like, what was I thinking? Like, I'm in the back warming up with one of my training partners, and like had to I was like, should I keep my arm wrapped or should I unwrap it? She's like, just unwrap it so she doesn't know. So like when I was training for that, I couldn't do like takedowns. There was so much that I couldn't do, and so I have to like do something with this now, like I have this huge scar on my arm. But I have a rod and screws in it now, so I've got some nasty guillotines.
Oh shit. Oh, that's some
Kidding.
bionic guillotine. Holy fuck,
Yeah,
man.
it's definitely bionic now.
Whoa. Again, that's it's because jiu-jitsu, right? Like
Yeah,
that's kind of it. Jiu-jitsu saved my life, but it can also end it. Like,
it's dangerous, and that's like the pros and cons of living like from your heart, right? There has to
right.
be some balance from heart and mind, right?
Yep.
Not just heart, because that will like get you fucked up. Like,
Well, that's where I think the in the between the heart and the mind, right? The in between
yeah,
is your fucking body saying, "Fuck you, asshole.
yeah.
We're not doing this shit again."
Yeah, never again. Absolutely not. I don't recommend it. But it was a good experience.
It was
It was
fucking hell of a story.
lesson learned.
Hell
Yeah.
of a story, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because I tried to compete twice after my surgery, and both times my opponent was a no-show. So I was like, okay, is this like the universe telling me, like, dude, you need to chill. You need to take some time to get your arms stronger. And so, yeah.
Wow, I mean, your tenacity. That's awesome, But that wouldn't be any different than probably Romeo or Chris or the rest of your team, and like teams all across not just this country but the world. And that's the expansion of it, And for somebody like yourself who's so passionate about it that prior to meeting that one guy and whatever had no idea. Just in terms of like timeline, right? What year was it where you first stepped on the mat?
2015. It was January of 2015.
Okay.
That's my first jiu-jitsu class.
So that's theoretically what? Little over a decade after the first UFC. Maybe this is the rise of Ronda Rousey, 2015.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Absolutely. And you still didn't know what that was, the grappling arts were.
Yeah, I wasn't into UFC and martial arts or anything like that before I met him. So as much as I want to say he's an asshole, I'm like so grateful that I met
Yeah.
him and like experienced that, because yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I was. Like, I'd probably still be miserable sitting behind a desk making money and not living a life of passion. And I think that's
Mhm.
the problem with so many people these days, you know?
Come on, sing it.
Yeah.
Don't sing it, bring it, sister. Come on.
Okay. Yeah. So I am, you know, I look at my mom too, like she works for security, you know, like
Mhm.
she's not happy. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be that way. You know, I'd rather like be broke right now and
Yeah.
doing something that I love and really enjoy. And I truly feel like it'll work itself out. And I'm just being consistent. I'm dedicated. I mean, anyone that knows me knows like I train a lot and I don't turn down matches, which maybe I should sometimes. But yeah, I just trying to keep at it. So
No, I mean that's, and it's crazy the insurmountable odds that kind of present themselves as you're trying to achieve a particular echelon in terms of just making sure this shit is right. You're a fucking heart,
yeah.
But I mean, I kind of went through the same thing. Like when I was working at the highest paid job up until that point, like, sharing a corner office in corporate marketing and all that stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a blue belt that I worked with that worked in like the video editing department and whatever. And we would go for an hour to jujitsu,
Yeah.
like down the road and whatever. And yeah, people were throwing chops at me when I got back to the office because they saw my wet soaking gi and whatever. But I remember, the company getting bought out and laid off. And towards the end, I mean, it was just a shitty place to be in because there's just a weirdness in the air. And then
Yeah.
the company got bought out. I was the first one to get let go, but like that last, I'd say 3 months, and I was only there 8 months. Last 3 months was just to go to jiu-jitsu at lunch. That was it. That was
Yeah.
it. And the day after, like, I showed up to jiu-jitsu, and my dude Brian, he was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, "Doing jiu-jitsu." It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, I got a whole like 3 weeks left, so
You gotta get in what you can.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's one of those things. And my cousin Christina Angassa says, "Oh, poor mama, that good girl life. Live life to the fullest. That's what you got to do." So,
Yes, I 100% agree with it.
yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that. I'm 31 now, so I'm just like I'm older than a lot of people that are getting into it and doing what I'm doing. So we'll see how it goes.
We will see. Which, I mean, do you have any like goals through jujitsu? What is like the paramount or pinnacle for you?
I mean, right now I'm just kind of focusing on smaller things. Like as far as like my jujitsu game, like I'm working on particular things. Like I really just want to get better. Not so much worried about the belt. Working on open guard right now and top pressure, but ultimately I want to technically be a black belt and teach girls, women jujitsu. I would love to maybe have something to do with getting more younger females into jujitsu. I just right now I'm just been so focused on myself with
Mm-hmm.
competing and stuff like that. But it changed my life, and I mean I was 25. It was a huge catalyst for me. So I can just imagine like girls that because I didn't have like the best childhood, but if I would have had it younger, like man, it's just so incredibly beneficial. And I think that I would love to have a part of young girls getting into jujitsu,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? The, like as you're doing that, you say like you're into yourself and your own goals and aspirations and what have you. Well, chances are there's going to be like it could be at the gym, it could be at the event or whatever. Some gal wants to take a picture with you, like,
Yeah.
no more than 10 years of age, and then follow you on the
Yeah.
socials and blah blah blah, and then she tells their gym about you, and then next thing you know, you're doing seminars, and then you belt up because you whoop that
Yeah.
girl's ass and whatever. So it's funny because like you might not even like say it or articulate it in words, right? But
Right.
those things, if you're on the path,
Yeah.
those things happen. Like
Right.
again, like I paid for a wrestling show, and then half of the card was like has been on this very podcast, and like, Woods,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing there? Come back, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
that happens, when you create value, but also just like
Yeah.
you coming on, you're creating value in my life because there's people that have never heard of me that you're
Yeah.
exposing me to them and them to you and vice
Right.
versa. So you just never know. And that's why I encourage like people to, start podcasts and beef up the social media and like entertain. I even heard from somebody that were like, oh, I'm not going to take a sponsor because I don't think it's ethical as a martial artist. I said, the fuck? You work a regular job, don't you?
Yeah.
What ethics do you find? You fucking are
Yeah.
miserable. You got a, frown line at the fucking top of your forehead because you fucking hate it there, but you're
Yeah.
still there. So what's the ethics in that?
I didn't want to ask for sponsors at first, and not because I didn't think it was ethical, but it was probably more of an ego thing. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to ask. And I had a friend, she was like, just do it. Like, just do it. I mean, you're helping them out, you're advertising for them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And so I
Yeah.
did it, and I filled those 3 spots in 2 days. And I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, it's that easy. Like, I can do
Yes.
this."
Right, and
So,
that's what you could help gals on,
yeah,
and there that's even it too, because like let's just say you know a little girl, third grade, getting bullied in school, or a
yeah,
little boy, same difference, right? And their mom is working 3 jobs just to put them in jujitsu so they can have just a
yeah,
bit of their head to be held high, right?
yeah,
And then they're like, oh, and you help them out with a sponsor or what have you.
yeah,
That could
yeah,
mean the world, especially you know in terms of sponsorship. If it's not you, that sponsor is going to sponsor somebody else.
right, right.
And how are you going to feel if it's somebody at your gym, right? And you're like, why not me? Well, it could have been you if you
Right,
put yourself out there, or
yeah,
so you just never know what could happen, so it's best not to limit yourself.
agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
It's okay, but it
Yeah,
comes with time, just like
yeah,
everything, just like your love of, from not. I'm particularly proud of you. If no one
thank
else says it,
you.
yeah, because you had 5, 6 years ago, you had no concept of what the hell this is,
Yeah,
and look at you now. You literally have devoted your life,
yeah,
to it. Kind of changed, trajectories, literally in the most literal sense. Spent
yeah,
your whole life in one part of the country, and you're like, no, I'm going to jet set on the other. And just taking that gamble on yourself. And you were saying, like the more people living out their dreams, right?
yeah,
And that's one of the things that I live in LA. How many people come from Des Moines, Iowa? I'm gonna be a big star, and it's the fucking Welcome to the Jungle opening scene, right? Where Axel
yeah.
steps off the bus and whatever, and and then sometimes those people, a lot of times those people don't make it, and then they have to settle into a regular job or go back home and whatever. And it's just like, what if just somebody said, hey, maybe we'll take a chance on them just one time.
That's kind of like what happened to me when I first moved here. The first place that I went and trained at, wasn't a huge fan of the owner, but one of the coaches there, like I was, oh my God, I was a hot mess. Like I was a hot mess when I came here emotionally, mentally.
Yeah.
And I had competed before, not many times, but I lost every single match. And I look back at it now, it was just, I didn't have someone that believed in me, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe in myself, and wasn't mentally prepared, but
Right.
so I met this coach, Angel Cruz, and he put emphasis on mental training. He was like, dude, you are a bad bitch. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, you're a bad bitch. Excuse my language. But,
Yep.
and he had me start working on like exercises, like visualizing and stuff like that. And that was it for me. That simple technique, visualize, I still ritualistically do it before I compete. But that I went from being like this, like, I didn't believe in myself. I was so depressed and didn't think I could win anything, to this person just like now I'm like kicking ass, you know? And so I have to thank him for that.
No, oh man, that's all it could take. And I think, you're not too dissimilar than everybody else that, steps onto the
Yeah.
mat. I know the last time that I did jujitsu, like 4 years ago, I was a manager for a hardware store that isn't even around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I would be thinking about work and I'd get subbed and whatever, and just, and I would use that as a catalyst to not win, but I'm all like, I'm fucking up at life. I'm like,
Yeah.
like my wife and I could just get into a little bit of a whatever, or my kid is just like, oh, dad, why weren't you whatever? And then
Yeah.
I fucking get subbed in jujitsu and then go to work and I'm just like, oh, this fucking whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the fucking best thing,
Yeah.
right? There's never, and this is not just jujitsu, this is in life. There's no such thing as a fucking perfect situation. So you got to
Mm-mm.
play the fucking cards as it may, and just do it. Whatever the fucking it is, you just
Yeah.
fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like hell, if it, I can't afford $300 a month for fucking training, go ask the coach, hey, can I sweep up after or
Right.
something? Like, there's always a way,
Yep.
And it's funny because like once you can pay, like maybe the coach is like, no, just fucking put, wear our rash guard with your sponsors and shit like that, and
Yeah.
wear it on the world stage, and you don't have to pay anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There is always a way. I always say love will find a way. It's so true.
It is so true. Which, by the way, have you? Because you did mention previous that you know you had your teammates coming to you as a massage therapist. Um,
Mm.
have you actually had people that you've maybe imposed an injury on, like you might have separated that shoulder or whatever, or
Oh,
caused that kink in their neck, and
you
you're like
mean in
massage it out,
jujitsu?
yeah, and then have to
Oh,
massage it out.
my training partners, I don't think I've ever injured training partners. Now,
Okay,
competing, that's a different story.
that's a different story.
Yeah, they get no mercy. But yeah, I mean, I'm always down to help my friends and training partners and family feel better. So that's pretty much,
Yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
I love it. I
I
love it.
don't injure my training partners, so
Yeah, that's
just so I can get more work, right?
yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, by the way, I guess you better come see me. That's a
I
good
might know
idea.
some people that have though, but anyway, that's another story for another day. But
Yeah.
obviously, you were mentioning, some of the people that have attributed to your success, right?
Mhm.
So, they're both professionally and personally that people that have been linchpins for you succeeding and feeling comfortable in your own skin, whether that be
Right.
jujitsu or just in life in general. So, Brittany, take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Okay. First want to shout out to my family, my mom, even though, she's always been supportive, even though she didn't really understand, doesn't agree with it, thinks I'll be broke forever. But shout out to her. I love her. Shout out to my team, 10 Planet San Antonio. My coaches there are phenomenal. Like I literally am becoming a better person through my teammates, my training partners, my coaches. So I couldn't be here without them. And my coaches from the past too. Ray Rodriguez out of Ultimate Submission Academy. I was there for almost a year and they helped me grow a ton. I learned so much from them, even though I'm not there anymore. It's just
Mhm.
a different path that I'm on now. But yeah, let me see. I'm trying to think. I think that's about it. And then my ex, Shane, thank you for introducing me to jujitsu.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you can have
But
a little bit of like whatever, because like let's say you face one of his students and whatever, then you
I
get like,
hope
ha
I just
ha.
like wait for that day. I don't know that that'll happen, but that would be cool. That would be pretty cool.
I don't know, maybe you
But
fly to Florida for a tournament and just see what
I
the
think
fuck is
about
up.
it. Oh, I still
Mhm.
look. I keep an eye out on those Florida tournaments. So, but yeah, pretty. I mean, shout out to everyone that's on my team that helps me get ready for these matches. Um, like I wouldn't be able to train jujitsu if I didn't have them. So
I love it. I absolutely
yeah,
love it. But obviously, you're tremendous, and thank you for doing this.
thank
This is really,
you.
really cool. But
Yeah.
for people who also want to share the love of you, where can they find you on the interwebs and the socials?
I am only on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Brittany B Late, and it's L and the number 8 because I'm often late places.
10 points.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. Follow me, say hi. I'll say hi back.
See? Yeah,
And
absolutely.
10 Planet San Antonio, also, if you ever want to come train. Anthony Lopez is like the best in the world. So very not a well-known person, but he is just phenomenal. So come through.
I'm just saying, yeah, 10th planet all day. But
Yeah.
again, thank you for doing this. And then thank you guys for watching
Thank
According to
you.
Woods.
Thank you so
Oh,
much for having me. This was fun.
yeah, anytime. The doors, like, we're family at this point. Like, the door's
Yeah.
open. Whatever you got something to promote and whatever. But
Okay.
I think you comment. I think we followed each other, and then you kind of
Yeah.
liked or commented on one of my dumb shit memes, and I was like, and for those who don't know, sometimes that is my bait. Oh, if you guys
Yeah.
aren't like
You
feeling the
share some wild
podcast,
stuff.
yeah, right. So I'm all like, oh, I'll pull you in with the meme. I'll put the meme, and if you comment it, chances are I'm getting in the fucking DMs, and hopefully within 72
Yeah.
hours, you're on this fucking very podcast. That's
Yeah,
how I
I
got
think
to
that's
510 in a year.
yeah. Dude, that's amazing. Hey, I'm proud of you too. That's it's refreshing to see people doing things that they're passionate about. And like this is so fun just to like have a conversation with a total
Yeah.
stranger at first and like that's awesome. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, and that's kind of why it's here, right?
Yeah.
Because it got started July 1st, 2020, and everybody didn't know, and people were literally going through. I saw my jiu-jitsu friends, my pro wrestling friends, my MMA friends, my promoter friends, my whatever, and all of them were like, "What the fuck am I going to do?" They've defined a large part of their adult life or even teenage life in
Yeah.
doing one of these things, and like almost not to say that they were struggling for relevance, but they were trying to have to define each other. So I was just like, let me do that. Like let me whatever I have, whatever, and keep your name in whatever and suggest like and it's crazy. There have been fights that have been set up because a promoter or
Yeah.
somebody the opponent fell out and saw another person on the podcast and that's what happened. People
Yeah.
have done van life and shit like that because they're like, yeah, fuck, like let's just travel and do jujitsu, and that's what they get. Like,
Yeah.
and it's that's what this is for. Much
Yep.
like my hero Rogan, it's just like pulling people together, and it might be a
Yeah.
decisive. I've had liberals, I've had conservatives, I've had Trumpers, anti. I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't. I want to know about you, like, and
That's cool.
whatever. So again, I thank you for doing it, being so
Thank
open.
you.
You could have been like, "Who's this weirdo in my DMs?" And all that. You
Yeah,
know,
no. I hope you enjoyed what I had to share. So
of
I
course
had
I did. Like I
fun.
said, like whatever you want to come on.
Okay.
Again, I DM'd you, so
Okay.
now get back at your big brother here,
Okay.
and all right.
I would definitely be down to do it again.
Yeah,
So
and also your teammates, man. The
okay.
fucking yeah, 10th
Yeah.
Planet Squad in
Hey,
San
we've
Antonio.
we've all got some really interesting stories. So
That's what I love.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody, and it's gonna
yeah.
inspire somebody somewhere, what have you. And again, I'm not a hard guy to find. According to Woods, I hide in plain sight because after I post my dumb shit meme or do the podcast, I don't touch the social media all day. But I'm
That's
there.
good.
Yeah, so there you go. But again, Brittany, you've been absolutely wonderful. You are
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank
Continue
you.
to do
As I
that,
go.
and yeah, and thank you guys for watching us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Brittany, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Yes. Yep.
Hell yes. So be like Brittany and be like me. Subscribe to the podcast. And
Do
if you
it.
don't yes, do it now. I had to tune up my vocalizers for that one. But if you don't believe us, and I don't know why you wouldn't, here's pro wrestler Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According